The sound of raindrops tapping against the window pane seemed to echo the rhythmic beat of Michael Donovan's racing heart. Sitting at the edge of his bed in their modest suburban home in Ohio, he stared at the faded photograph of his late wife, Emily, resting on the nightstand. It was a picture of her holding their daughter, Lily, mere days after her birth. The warmth of Emily's smile in that image had always been his anchor, but tonight it only intensified the knot of unease in his chest. 7 years had passed since Emily's tragic death in a car accident, leaving Michael to raise their daughter alone. For years, it had been just the two of them navigating life, piecing together something resembling normalcy. Lily, with her bright hazel eyes and infectious laughter, had always been his reason to push forward. Despite the weight of grief, he worked tirelessly as a mechanic, sacrificing his dreams to provide Lily with a happy and secure childhood. 2 years ago, however, life had changed. Vanessa entered their world, a vivacious and seemingly kind-hearted woman who had swept Michael off his feet. Lily, cautious at first, eventually warmed to her, and Michael believed he had found not just a partner, but someone who could help him build the family he had longed for. Yet, in recent months, something about Lily had changed. She had grown quieter, more withdrawn, her once constant chatter replaced by sullen silences. Michael had attributed it to the growing pains of childhood, until tonight. "Daddy, I need to tell you something." The voice, small and tremulous, had startled Michael out of his thoughts. He turned to see Lily standing at the door to his bedroom, clutching her worn stuffed bunny. Her lip quivered, and her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Of course, sweetheart." "Come here," he said, patting the bed beside him. Lily hesitated before climbing up, her little hands fidgeting nervously in her lap. "It's about Vanessa," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the rain. Michael felt his stomach tighten. "What about her, Lily?" She's not nice to me when you're not home." The words landed like a punch to the gut. Michael's mind raced, sifting through memories, searching for any signs he might have missed. "What do you mean, honey? Did she yell at you?" Lily nodded, her tiny shoulders trembling. "She says mean things. And sometimes she grabs my arm too hard. She says it's my fault when things go wrong." Michael's breath caught. Anger surged, hot and immediate, but he forced himself to remain calm for Lily's sake. "Sweetheart, I need you to tell me everything." "It's okay, I promise." And so she did. Piece by piece, Lily recounted moments that made Michael's blood boil. Vanessa snapping at her over spilled milk, shoving her aside when she was in the way, and locking her in her room as punishment for minor mistakes. It was a side of Vanessa he had never seen, a version of her carefully concealed behind charm and affection. Tears streamed down Lily's face as she finished. "I didn't want to tell you because I thought you'd be mad. But it's been happening a lot, Daddy. I'm scared." Michael pulled her into his arms, his own tears threatening to spill. "Oh, Lily, I'm so sorry. You did the right thing by telling me. I'll take care of this. I promise." But how? Confronting Vanessa outright might only escalate the situation, and the thought of leaving Lily alone with her, even briefly, was unbearable. That's when an idea struck him, one that felt equal parts desperate and necessary. "Lily," he said gently, "tomorrow, when Vanessa is home with you, I want you to act like everything's normal. Can you do that for me?" She looked up at him, confused but trusting. "Why?" "Because I need to see it for myself. I'm going to make sure she never hurts you again." The next afternoon, as the rain gave way to a rare patch of sunshine, Michael feigned leaving for work, kissing Lily on the forehead and Vanessa on the cheek. But instead of driving away, he parked a few blocks down and walked back, slipping into the house through the back door. Quietly, he made his way to the coat closet in the hallway, a vantage point that allowed him to observe the living room unseen. What he witnessed shattered him. Vanessa's voice, sharp and venomous, echoed through the house. "Can't you do anything right, you little brat?" she snapped, snatching a crayon from Lily's hand and tossing it across the room. "You're the reason your father is always so stressed. I don't know why he bothers with you." Lily recoiled, her small frame trembling as tears welled in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Vanessa's hand shot out, gripping Lily's arm tightly enough to make her yelp. Sorry isn't good enough. You're going to clean up this mess, and if you don't, you're staying in your room for the rest of the day. Michael's vision blurred with rage. His fists clenched so tightly that his nails dug into his palms. Every fiber of his being screamed at him to burst out of the closet and put an end to this nightmare, but he forced himself to wait. He needed undeniable proof, something no one could dispute, not Vanessa, not the authorities, not even himself. He pulled out his phone, recording every second of the exchange. When Vanessa finally stormed off, leaving Lily in a heap on the floor, Michael emerged from the closet, his face a mask of controlled fury. Lily's eyes widened in shock and relief. Daddy. He knelt down, scooping her into his arms. It's okay, sweetheart. I'm here now, and she'll never hurt you again. Vanessa's footsteps echoed as she returned, a scowl etched across her face. What are you doing back? She demanded, her voice faltering when she saw Michael's expression. I saw everything, he said coldly, holding up his phone. Her face paled. Michael, I save it, he growled. You're done here. Vanessa opened her mouth to protest, but Michael cut her off. Get out of my house. Now. And don't think for a second you'll get away with this. She left, muttering curses under her breath, but Michael barely noticed. His focus was on Lily, who clung to him like a lifeline. That night, as he tucked her into bed, Michael made her a promise. No one will ever hurt you again, Lily. Not while I'm here. What began as heartbreak had ignited something fierce in him, a resolve to protect his daughter at all costs. And as he watched her drift off to sleep, safe and sound, he knew this was only the beginning. The day after Michael confronted Vanessa, the house felt quieter than it had in months, as if a storm had passed and left behind a fragile peace. Lily clung to him for most of the morning, her small hand never straying far from his. Every time Michael looked into her hazel eyes, a mix of guilt and determination overwhelmed him. How could he not have seen what was happening? How had he failed to protect her? The questions gnawed at him as he prepared breakfast, glancing nervously at the front door as if Vanessa might burst back in. But she didn't. Instead, Michael spent the day reassuring Lily and making phone calls. He had decided on two things. First, that he would report Vanessa's actions to the authorities, and second, that he would take steps to ensure Lily felt safe again, no matter what it took. By mid-afternoon. He had spoken to both the local police and a family lawyer. The video he had recorded from the closet was now in safe hands, a critical piece of evidence that would likely prevent Vanessa from disputing her actions. Still, the process was far from over. Vanessa had a temper and a cunning side. Michael knew she wouldn't leave quietly. His suspicions were confirmed when his phone buzzed later that evening. It was Vanessa. Her name on the screen made his pulse quicken. Reluctantly, he answered. What do you want? He asked, his voice colder than he intended. Michael, you're overreacting, Vanessa said, her tone syrupy but brittle. I was just trying to discipline her. Kids need structure, you know that. Michael's grip tightened on the phone. Discipline? He spat. You call locking a child in her room and grabbing her so hard she bruises discipline? She's spoiled, Michael. And you let her walk all over you. Someone had to teach her responsibility. Michael's vision darkened. Stay away from us, Vanessa. I mean it. Her laugh on the other end of the line was chilling. You think you can just throw me out like trash? After everything I've done for you? For her. You hurt my daughter, Michael said through clenched teeth. And you're lucky I didn't call the police the moment I found out. Don't push me. Vanessa was silent for a moment, and when she spoke again, her voice was low and venomous. You'll regret this, Michael. You have no idea who you're dealing with. The call ended, leaving Michael staring at the phone, the weight of her words pressing down on him. His gut told him she wasn't bluffing. In the following weeks, Vanessa's absence brought a sense of calm back into their lives. Michael made every effort to rebuild Lily's trust. They spent afternoons at the park, baked cookies in the kitchen, and even started a new bedtime ritual where Lily would tell him one happy memory from her day. Slowly, her laughter returned, and the shadows in her eyes began to fade. But Vanessa wasn't done. One morning, Michael awoke to find his car vandalized. The tires were slashed, and the windshield bore a single word in red spray paint: liar. The sight sent a chill down his spine. He filed a report with the police, but without evidence linking Vanessa to the crime, there was little they could do. Then came the rumors. At the auto shop where Michael worked, customers began canceling appointments, claiming they had heard unsavory things about him. One even suggested he was under investigation for child neglect, a baseless accusation, but one that spread quickly in their small town. Vanessa, it seemed, was determined to destroy his reputation. Michael's resolve hardened. If Vanessa wanted a fight, she would get one. But he wouldn't stoop to her level. Instead, he would protect Lily, secure their future, and ensure that Vanessa's actions were brought to light. He doubled down on his legal efforts, gathering character witnesses and working closely with his lawyer to file for a restraining order. At the same time, he began teaching Lily how to recognize and talk about her feelings, a step toward helping her heal. One evening, as they sat on the couch reading a story, Lily looked up at him and asked, "Daddy, is Vanessa gone forever?" Michael hesitated, stroking her hair. "I'm doing everything I can to make sure she never hurts you again, sweetheart." Lily nodded, seeming content with his answer. But as Michael tucked her in that night, he couldn't shake the feeling that the battle was far from over. 2 weeks later, Vanessa reappeared. This time, it wasn't just threats or rumors. Michael arrived home from work to find the front door ajar. Panic gripped him as he raced inside, calling for Lily, "Daddy." Her voice came from the kitchen, small but unharmed. He found her standing near the counter, her eyes wide and frightened. Beside her, Vanessa leaned casually against the fridge, a twisted smile on her face. "We need to talk, Michael," she said. Michael's heart pounded as he placed himself between Vanessa and Lily. "You're not supposed to be here." "I just wanted to see my family," she said, feigning innocence. "I miss her, you know. And I think she misses me too." Lily shrank behind Michael, clutching his shirt. "No, I don't," she whispered. Michael's voice was steely. "You need to leave. Now." Vanessa's smile faltered. "I don't think so. You think you're so much better than me, don't you? But you're not. You're weak. You couldn't even keep Emily safe. What makes you think you can protect her?" The mention of Emily was a dagger to his heart, but Michael didn't flinch. "Get out," he said again, his tone leaving no room for argument. Vanessa's eyes narrowed, but for once, she seemed to understand that she had lost. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Michael locked it, his hands trembling, and immediately called the police. This time, the evidence was enough. With the restraining order already in place, Vanessa's violation of it led to her arrest. For the first time in months, Michael felt a sliver of hope. As he held Lily that night, he realized that while the road ahead would still have challenges, they were stronger than Vanessa's hatred. Together, they would rebuild, not just their home, but their sense of safety and trust. Michael had chosen to fight not with anger or vengeance, but with love. And that, he believed, was a victory Vanessa could never take from them. The weeks after Vanessa's arrest were filled with a strange mixture of relief and apprehension. While Michael and Lily began to settle into a more peaceful routine, a lingering sense of unease shadowed their days. Vanessa's parting words, "You'll regret this, Michael. You have no idea who you're dealing with," echoed in his mind like a sinister warning. Lily had started smiling again, her hazel eyes regaining their sparkle, but Michael could see the subtle signs of her lingering fear. She clung to him in public spaces and hesitated to sleep alone, often waking up in the middle of the night from bad dreams. Michael remained vigilant, checking the locks multiple times each evening and installing a new security system. He wanted to believe that Vanessa's arrest had been the end of it, but deep down, he knew it wasn't over. 2 months passed without incident. The town had begun to forget the scandal as rumors died down and business at the auto shop returned to normal. Michael, cautiously optimistic, decided to take Lily on a weekend camping trip to their favorite spot in Hocking Hills State Park. It had been a tradition when Emily was alive, and Michael thought a return to nature might help both of them heal. They arrived at the campsite on a crisp Saturday morning. The air was filled with the earthy scent of fallen leaves, and the sound of birdsong echoed through the trees. Lily seemed excited, skipping ahead on the trail and pointing out squirrels and wildflowers. For the first time in what felt like forever, Michael saw a glimpse of the carefree child she used to be. That evening, as they sat by the campfire roasting marshmallows, Lily's laughter warmed Michael's heart. The flames danced in her eyes as she told him a story about a rabbit she'd seen earlier. "Daddy, do you think Mommy can see us right now?" she asked suddenly, her voice soft and wistful. Michael paused, his throat tightening. "I think she can, sweetheart. And I think she's proud of you, of us." Lily smiled, a bittersweet expression, and rested her head against his arm. For a moment, everything felt perfect, but perfection is fleeting. As the fire died down and Michael prepared to put Lily to bed in the tent, a rustling sound came from the edge of the woods. He froze, his instincts immediately on high alert. Probably just an animal, he muttered to himself, trying to keep calm for Lily's sake. But the sound came again, louder this time, and accompanied by the faint crunch of footsteps. "Daddy, what is it?" Lily asked, sensing his unease. Michael crouched beside her, his voice steady but firm. "Stay here, okay? Don't move." Grabbing the flashlight, he scanned the tree line. "Hello," he called out, his voice echoing in the stillness. No response. Michael's pulse quickened. He didn't want to alarm Lily, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. He stepped closer to the woods, the flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. That's when he saw it, a glint of light reflecting off something metallic. A knife. Michael's heart pounded as a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Vanessa. Her hair was disheveled, and her eyes glinted with a wild, unhinged intensity. "Miss me," she sneered, her voice dripping with malice. Michael's breath caught in his throat. "Vanessa," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "What are you doing here?" She took a step closer, the knife gleaming in her hand. "You ruined my life, Michael. You took everything from me. My home, my reputation, everything. And now I'm going to take something from you." Michael's mind raced. He had to protect Lily at all costs. "You need to leave," he said, his tone steady despite the fear coursing through him. "This won't end well for you, Vanessa." "Oh, I think it will," she said with a twisted smile. That moment, Lily's small voice called out from behind him. "Daddy?" Vanessa's eyes flicked toward the tent, and Michael saw his chance. He lunged at her, grabbing her wrist and twisting it until the knife fell to the ground. She screamed, thrashing wildly, but Michael held firm. "Lily, run," he shouted. Lily hesitated for a split second before dashing into the woods. Michael's focus remained on Vanessa, who was clawing at him with manic strength. They grappled, the struggle chaotic and brutal, until Michael finally managed to pin her to the ground. "I'm calling the police," he growled, pulling his phone from his pocket, but Vanessa laughed, a chilling sound that sent a shiver down his spine. "You think this is over? It's not. You'll never be rid of me." The sound of sirens in the distance cut through the tension. Michael didn't know who had called. Perhaps a nearby camper had heard the commotion, but he felt a wave of relief. When the police arrived, Vanessa was arrested on the spot. This time, there was no escaping the consequences of her actions. Michael found Lily hiding behind a tree not far from the campsite. She flung herself into his arms, sobbing. "It's okay, sweetheart," he whispered, holding her tightly. "She's gone now. She can't hurt us anymore." But even as he said the words, a part of him wondered if they were true. Vanessa's hatred had run so deep, her need for revenge so consuming, that it felt like her shadow might linger forever. In the weeks that followed, Michael and Lily returned to their lives, each day a step closer to normalcy. They leaned on each other, drawing strength from their bond. But Michael knew he couldn't take anything for granted. He enrolled Lily in therapy to help her process the trauma, and he began attending counseling sessions himself. Together, They worked to rebuild their trust in the world and in themselves. One evening, as Michael tucked Lily into bed, she looked up at him with her big hazel eyes. "Daddy, are we safe now?" Michael hesitated, then smiled softly. "Yes, Lily, we're safe. And we always will be." For the first time in a long while, he believed it. The weeks following Vanessa's final arrest marked a turning point for Michael and Lily. Though the haunting memories lingered, there was an undeniable sense of relief, as if a weight had been lifted from their lives. The house, once filled with tension and fear, began to feel like a sanctuary again. Michael threw himself into creating a safe and nurturing environment for Lily. Her laughter, which had once seemed like a distant memory, slowly became a regular melody in their home. But rebuilding their lives required more than just physical safety. It demanded emotional healing and trust. Michael decided to start small. Every evening after dinner, he and Lily would sit on the couch and talk about their day. At first, the conversations were brief and surface level, but over time, Lily began to open up. She spoke of her fears, her memories of Vanessa, and the lingering worry that someone might hurt her again. "Daddy," she asked one evening, clutching her favorite stuffed animal, "why was Vanessa so mean to me?" The question broke Michael's heart. He took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. "Sometimes people have their own pain and they don't know how to handle it," he said gently. "That doesn't make it right. But what matters is that you're safe now and I'll always protect you." Lily nodded, her small fingers brushing away a tear. "I'm glad you're my daddy." Michael hugged her tightly, feeling an overwhelming sense of purpose. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them for her. One day, Michael received a call from the district attorney handling Vanessa's case. The trial was approaching, and they wanted Michael to testify. The thought of reliving the events in court made his stomach churn, but he knew it was necessary. He also wanted Lily to feel that justice was being served, even if she was too young to fully understand the complexities. As the trial date neared, Michael prepared himself mentally and emotionally. He went over the evidence, including the video he had recorded that night in the closet. Watching it again was gut-wrenching, but it reinforced his resolve to see this through. The day of the trial arrived on a gray, drizzly morning. Michael dropped Lily off at a friend's house, where she would be looked after while he was in court. She hugged him tightly before he left, her small arms wrapped around his neck. "Be brave, Daddy," she whispered. Michael smiled at her, drawing strength from her words. "I will, sweetheart." At the courthouse, the atmosphere was tense. Vanessa sat at the defense table, her once polished demeanor replaced by a hardened, bitter expression. Michael felt a pang of anger as he watched her, anger for the pain she had caused his daughter and the fear she had sown in their lives. When it was his turn to testify, Michael spoke with clarity and conviction. He recounted the events leading up to Vanessa's arrest, including the disturbing incident in the woods during the camping trip. He described the toll it had taken on Lily, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. "She's only 7 years old," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "No child should ever have to go through what she did." Vanessa didn't just hurt her physically, she broke her trust in the people who were supposed to protect her. The prosecutor presented the video evidence, and the courtroom fell silent as the recording played. Michael couldn't bring himself to watch it again. Instead, he focused on a spot on the wall, willing himself to stay composed. When the defense tried to paint Vanessa as a victim of circumstance, Michael held his ground. He refused to let her manipulate the narrative. By the end of the trial, he felt a mix of exhaustion and hope. The jury deliberated for 2 days before reaching a verdict, guilty on multiple counts, including child endangerment and violating a restraining order. Vanessa was sentenced to a lengthy prison term, ensuring she would no longer pose a threat to Michael or Lily. In the months following the trial, Michael focused on moving forward. He enrolled Lily in a new school where she quickly made friends. He also began attending a support group for single parents, finding comfort in connecting with others who had faced similar struggles. Lily continued her therapy sessions, and Michael noticed significant changes in her. She seemed more confident and less anxious, her smile returning brighter and more frequently. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, she turned to him and said, "Daddy, I feel happy again." Michael's chest tightened with emotion. "That's all I've ever wanted for you, Lily." They talked often about Emily, remembering her warmth and kindness. Michael made sure Lily knew that her mother's love was still with them, a guiding light even in the darkest times. As time passed, their lives took on a new rhythm. Michael found joy in the simple moments, making pancakes on Saturday mornings, helping Lily with her homework, and watching her perform in her school's talent show. Each day was a reminder of how far they had come. A year after Vanessa's arrest, Michael and Lily returned to Hocking Hills for another camping trip. This time, there was no fear, no shadow looming over them. As they hiked through the woods, Lily ran ahead, her laughter echoing through the trees. "Daddy, look," she called, pointing to a cluster of wildflowers. Michael smiled, his heart swelling with gratitude. He had fought hard to protect her, and now he could see the results of that fight in her joy and resilience. That night, as they sat by the campfire, Lily leaned against him and whispered, "I love you, Daddy." Michael wrapped an arm around her, his voice steady and full of love. "I love you too, sweetheart. Always." For the first time in a long while, Michael felt at peace. They had weathered the storm together, and now the future felt bright, filled with hope, healing, and the unbreakable bond between a father and his daughter. Michael spent months trying to rebuild his life after Vanessa's arrest. Though the courts had handed down a harsh sentence, he couldn't shake the fear that lingered in the back of his mind. Vanessa's threats echoed in his ears, her dark promises making it clear she would never truly let go. Even behind bars, her reach seemed to stretch into his and Lily's lives like a poisonous shadow. Lily was recovering slowly but surely. Therapy helped her navigate the trauma, and Michael went out of his way to create moments of joy. But every time he saw her glance nervously at strangers or cling to his side in crowded spaces, his anger at Vanessa reignited. One day, as Michael worked on a client's car in his auto shop, he received a letter. The envelope bore no return address, but the handwriting was unmistakably Vanessa's. His hands trembled as he opened it. The note was short but chilling. "You think you've won. You haven't. I'll always be there watching, waiting. Enjoy your peace while it lasts." Michael felt a cold knot of dread form in his stomach. He immediately contacted the authorities, but they assured him Vanessa had no way of contacting the outside world. Still, the feeling of unease grew. Weeks later, strange things began to happen. At first, they were small, a window left open that Michael was sure he had closed. A toy of Lily's moved to an odd place. But as time went on, the incidents escalated. One evening, he returned home to find their family photos rearranged on the mantel. Another night, he woke up to the sound of the front door unlocking, only to find no one there. Michael knew someone was watching them. He doubled down on security, installing cameras and reinforcing the locks, but the paranoia consumed him. Every creak in the house, every shadow outside the window felt like a warning. Lily began having nightmares again, and Michael was determined not to let her fear take over. But the breaking point came one cold November evening. Michael had just put Lily to bed when he heard the faint sound of glass shattering in the kitchen. His blood ran cold. Grabbing the baseball bat he kept by the door, he crept toward the sound. As he entered the kitchen, his heart sank. A brick lay on the floor amid shards of broken glass. Tied to it was a note, scrawled in bold letters. "Time's up." The following morning, Michael packed a bag for Lily and took her to stay with his late wife's parents in upstate New York. Though it broke his heart to be apart from her, he knew she would be safer away from the house. "I'll come get you soon," he promised, kneeling to her level. "Grandma and Grandpa will take good care of you." Lily clung to him, her tear-streaked face burying into his shoulder. "Daddy, don't let her hurt you." Michael held her tightly, his resolve hardening. "I won't. I promise." After leaving Lily with her grandparents, Michael returned home. Alone in the empty house, he waited. If Vanessa, or whoever was behind the terror, wanted him, he was ready to confront them. That night, as the wind howled outside, Michael heard the faint sound of footsteps. They were deliberate, steady, moving toward the house. His hands tightened around the bat. The sound stopped outside the front door. A knock echoed through the silence, soft but deliberate. Michael took a deep breath and swung the door open. There she was. Vanessa. She looked different, her once polished appearance now disheveled, her eyes sunken and wild. Michael's mind raced. How had she gotten out of prison, surprised to see me? She asked, her voice dripping with malice. Michael's jaw tightened. Leave, Vanessa. You've done enough damage. Vanessa stepped closer, a twisted smile on her lips. You don't get to tell me what to do. Not after what you took from me. Michael raised the bat, his grip steady. I'll call the police. Go ahead, she sneered. But they won't get here in time. The confrontation erupted into chaos. Vanessa lunged at Michael, a knife gleaming in her hand. Michael swung the bat, but she was fast, ducking and weaving. They grappled, the struggle intense and violent. Michael managed to disarm her, sending the knife skittering across the floor. But Vanessa fought with a ferocity that took him by surprise. She screamed, clawing and punching, her rage like a force of nature. Finally, Michael managed to pin her to the ground. He grabbed his phone and dialed 911, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. She's here, he said. Vanessa escaped. Send help. The police arrived within minutes, taking Vanessa into custody. This time, there would be no escape. Michael pressed charges for attempted murder, ensuring that her prison sentence would be extended indefinitely. In the days that followed, Michael felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Knowing Vanessa was behind bars for good gave him a sense of closure he hadn't felt in years. He brought Lily home, reassuring her that they were safe. Together, they began to rebuild their lives. Michael replaced the broken window and removed the cameras, determined to reclaim their sense of normalcy, but he never forgot the lessons he had learned. He became more vigilant, more protective, and more appreciative of the small moments of peace with Lily. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Lily turned to him and said, "Daddy, are we really safe now?" Michael wrapped an arm around her, his voice firm and full of love. "Yes, sweetheart, we are. And I'll make sure we always will be." As the sun dipped below the horizon, Michael felt a sense of satisfaction. He had faced his fears, protected his daughter, and reclaimed their lives. Vanessa had tried to break them, but in the end, it was Michael and Lily who had triumphed. Michael stood on the porch of his home, staring at the distant horizon. The sun was setting, casting golden light over the neighborhood, but his mind was far from peaceful. It had been weeks since Vanessa's final, desperate attempt to hurt him and Lily, and while she was locked away for good, the scars she left were not so easily sealed. The events of that fateful night still haunted him. Vanessa's wild eyes, her unrelenting fury, and the sheer chaos of their confrontation replayed in his mind like a broken record. He had won the fight, but he couldn't shake the feeling that her shadow still lingered over their lives. Lily, too, bore the weight of the past. Though Michael had shielded her from much of the terror, she had seen enough to know that evil could lurk even in people who pretended to love you. She had started sleeping with the light on, her once fearless demeanor replaced by a hesitance that broke Michael's heart. He had promised her safety, but could he promise her peace? Michael decided that neither of them could heal fully here. The house held too many memories, the town too many reminders of what they had endured. He needed to take Lily somewhere far away, a fresh start where they could truly begin to rebuild their lives. The answer came to him in the form of a letter. In the days following Vanessa's arrest, Michael had reached out to a friend, Greg, who lived in Colorado. They had grown up together, but had lost touch over the years. When Greg heard Michael's story, he insisted that Michael and Lily come stay with him. "Come out here," Greg had said. "The mountains have a way of clearing your head. You and Lily need a place where the past can't reach you." Michael hesitated at first, but as he watched Lily struggle to smile the way she used to, he realized Greg was right. It was time to leave. The move was exhausting but liberating. Michael sold the house, packed their belongings, and hit the road with Lily. As they drove across the country, he felt a weight lift with every mile they put between themselves and Ohio. When they finally arrived in Colorado, Michael was struck by the beauty of the place. Greg's home was nestled in a small town surrounded by towering mountains and pine forests. The air was crisp and clean, and the quiet was unlike anything Michael had experienced before. Lily's eyes lit up when she saw the mountains. "They're so big, Daddy," she exclaimed, her excitement warming Michael's heart. Greg greeted them with open arms, his easygoing nature a balm for Michael's frayed nerves. Over the next few weeks, Michael and Lily began to settle into their new lives. For the first time in what felt like forever, Michael could breathe. But healing was never going to be a straight line. Lily had nightmares almost every night. She would wake up screaming, her small body trembling as Michael held her close. She was there. Lily would whisper, her voice shaking. "She was standing at the window, looking at me." Michael reassured her each time, though the intensity of her fear left him rattled. He knew Vanessa was locked away, but Lily's mind had been scarred too deeply for that fact to bring her comfort. Michael, too, struggled with his own demons. He took long walks in the woods to clear his head, but every rustling branch, every shadow in the trees made his heart race. One day, as he sat on a rock overlooking a mountain valley, Greg joined him. "You can't carry all of this forever, you know," Greg said. Handing Michael a thermos of coffee, Michael sighed, staring into the distance. "I don't know how to let it go. I feel like I failed her, Greg. I should have seen what Vanessa was capable of sooner." Greg placed a hand on Michael's shoulder. "You didn't fail her. You fought for her, and you won. That little girl looks up to you more than anyone in the world. You're her hero, Michael." The words hit Michael like a wave. Could it be true? Had he been so consumed by guilt that he couldn't see how far they had come? Over time, Michael began to let the mountains work their magic. He and Lily explored the forests, hiked trails, and even started learning how to fish. Slowly, Lily began to smile again, her laughter echoing through the trees like music. One afternoon, as they sat by a sparkling mountain lake, Lily turned to Michael and said, "Daddy, I don't think she can find us here." Michael's chest tightened. He reached over and took her hand. "She can't, sweetheart. I promise." And for the first time, he truly believed it. The day came when Michael felt strong enough to face the memories head-on. He brought out an old photo album, one filled with pictures of Emily, Lily's mother. "Do you remember her?" Michael asked as Lily sat beside him. Lily nodded, her eyes misting over. "A little. She used to sing to me." Michael smiled. "She did. She had the most beautiful voice." They spent hours flipping through the album, reminiscing about Emily and the love she had brought into their lives. It was a bittersweet moment, but it reminded Michael that even in the darkest times, there had been light. It was that light he needed to focus on. For himself. For Lily, as the seasons changed, Michael and Lily grew stronger. The nightmares became less frequent, the laughter more plentiful. They built a life in the mountains, one filled with hope and possibility. Michael even started his own auto repair shop in town, earning the respect and friendship of the locals. Lily thrived in her new school, making friends and discovering a love for painting. One evening, as they sat by the fire in their cozy cabin, Lily looked up at Michael and said, "Daddy, I think Mommy would be proud of us." Michael felt tears prick his eyes. He pulled Lily close and kissed the top of her head. "She would, sweetheart. She definitely would." And in that moment, Michael realized that while the scars of the past would never completely fade, they no longer defined him or Lily. They had survived. They had fought. And they had found a way to build a new life, one filled with love, strength, and the promise of brighter days ahead. In the end, it wasn't revenge or justice that healed them. It was each other. The months passed slowly, but time proved to be both a balm and a teacher. For Michael and Lily, the road to recovery was long and often marked by setbacks, but they walked it together. Each small victory, a peaceful night's sleep, a laugh shared during dinner, A quiet moment by the fire felt monumental. The mountains of Colorado had become their sanctuary. Life here was simpler, quieter, and allowed them the space to heal. For Michael, the haunting memories of Vanessa's cruelty no longer dictated his every thought. For Lily, the vivid nightmares of a woman standing in the shadows outside her window began to fade. Still, there were moments when the scars of their ordeal surfaced unexpectedly. One evening, as the first snow of winter fell gently outside their cabin, Michael heard Lily humming to herself as she colored at the kitchen table. He recognized the tune immediately. It was a lullaby Emily, Lily's mother, used to sing. "Where did you learn that?" Michael asked softly, his voice catching in his throat. Lily looked up, her big eyes full of innocence. "I remembered it. Mommy used to sing it to me, didn't she?" Michael nodded, his chest tightening. "She did. She loved you so much." Lily smiled, her gaze returning to her drawing. "I think she still does. I think she's watching over us." The words struck Michael deeply. For years, he had carried the weight of guilt over Emily's death and the pain it had brought to Lily. But hearing his daughter speak of her mother with such certainty, such peace, reminded him that love never truly fades. It was a turning point for both of them. As winter deepened, Michael and Lily grew closer to the community around them. Their neighbor, Carol, a retired schoolteacher, often stopped by with homemade pies and stories of her youth. She took a special liking to Lily, teaching her to bake and knit. First, Michael had been cautious about letting people into their lives, but Carol's warmth and genuine kindness slowly eroded his defenses. "Your little girl has a light in her," Carol said one day as she and Michael sat on the porch sipping tea. "Despite everything she's been through, she shines." Michael nodded, his gaze distant. "She's stronger than I ever gave her credit for." Carol placed a hand on his arm. "That's because of you. You've given her a reason to keep shining." One cold February morning, Michael received a package in the mail. It was unexpected. He hadn't ordered anything, but when he opened it, he found an old photo album. Inside were pictures of him, Emily, and Lily, taken during the early years of their marriage. There was no note, but Michael knew immediately who had sent it. Emily's parents. He flipped through the pages. Memories flooded back. Emily holding Lily as a newborn. Their first Christmas together as a family. A spontaneous road trip to the Grand Canyon, where Emily had insisted on setting up a tripod to capture all three of them laughing against the backdrop of the Red Rocks. The pain of losing her felt fresh again, but this time, it was accompanied by gratitude. Gratitude for the love they had shared and for the family they had built. That evening, Michael showed the album to Lily. "Mommy looks so happy," Lily said, tracing a finger over one of the photos. "She was," Michael replied, his voice steady. "And she'd be so proud of you, Lily. Of how brave you've been." Lily leaned against him, her small hand gripping his. "I miss her, but I think she'd want us to be happy." Michael nodded, tears welling in his eyes. "She would. And we will be." Spring arrived, bringing with it a renewed sense of hope. The snow melted, revealing lush green meadows dotted with wildflowers. Lily spent her days exploring the woods with new friends she'd made in school, while Michael began expanding his auto repair business, earning the trust of the tight-knit community. One day, while hiking a trail near their cabin, Michael and Lily stumbled upon a small clearing with a breathtaking view of the valley below. "This is it," Michael said, smiling. "Is what?" Lily asked, tilting her head. "Our special spot. A place just for us." Lily beamed. "Can we bring flowers here? And maybe a picture of Mommy?" Michael nodded, his heart full. "I think she'd like that." They spent the afternoon gathering wildflowers, arranging them in a small pile at the base of a tree. Michael placed one of Emily's photos, a candid shot of her laughing, beside the flowers. They stood there in silence. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, carrying with it a sense of peace. "I feel like she's here," Lily whispered. Michael placed a hand on her shoulder. "I do too." Life didn't return to what it had been before Vanessa, but it didn't need to. Michael and Lily had found a new normal, one rooted in resilience and love. They carried the lessons of their past with them, but they no longer allowed those lessons to define them, and as they sat together on the porch one evening, watching the sun set over the mountains, Michael finally felt a sense of closure. "Daddy," Lily said, her voice soft. "Yes, sweetheart. We're okay now, right?" Michael looked at her, his heart swelling with pride and love. "Yes, Lily, we're more than okay." For the first time in years, he believed it. The past had tried to break them, but together, they had emerged stronger. The future was theirs to build, and as the stars began to light up the night sky, Michael knew they would make it a bright one.